the greatest nation on the face of the planet, the greatest success story the world has ever known. Friends, it boils down to the consent of the government.
Right.
Thomas Jefferson probably said it best in our Declaration of Independence. But there's only one or two things that we remember vividly about what Jefferson said in that declaration, where we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. We know that part, but what comes after that? And that's where we are now, my friends. We're at the point that comes after that. I'm going to read it to you. It says right after the pursuit of happiness that to ensure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
That's it.
That is you. That is us. And my friends, how is it possible that we elect these? Not what I
Yeah. Make it plain.
want. To Washington, D.C. And most of you are believers in the Almighty. How is it possible that we say to ourselves that we don't bend our knee to anyone but God?
That's it. You better say it.
But yet, my friends, yet, we tremble in fear
Yes.
at the legislation
Yeah.
that these clowns are putting forth. How is that possible? That you that have that moral fiber, that understand the Judeo-Christian ethic, how is it possible that we don't bend our knee before anyone but God?
Amen.
But yet, we tremble at the sight of these clowns? The consent of the governed is what we are all about here tonight. I see all of you deplorables in this room. The consent of the governed is why you, as parents, are pushing back here today. Is because these educational systems do not have the consent of the governed, and they are teaching our children. And so, my fellow Americans, Freedom Works, I've been with them for 13 years. I crisscross the nation once a month, almost every month, visiting our nearly 6 million activists on the ground, just like you, all across the country. Our mission? To build, to educate, to mobilize the largest grassroots effort in the country. And that's what we're doing. And so we're building it.
Amen.
When we brought you in, we were building it. And we do that all the time, all around the nation. No other grassroots company, no other grassroots organization does what we do. And that is answer your call to action when you call us. You can guarantee that we are going to come and offer you tools to build yourself, tools to strengthen your community. That's why you are here, in order to plant the seed, in order to give you the weapons, the tools that you need in order to save our nation. Be sure to tune us in at 11 o'clock. On Sunday. And you can also download the app if you want to. Follow me on Twitter at FCL Bryant. The Republic. What type of government have you given us, Dr. Franklin? Elizabeth Powell, a woman, asked that question as Dr. Franklin was coming out of the first Constitutional Convention. And he turned to her and said, I've given you a republic, if you would keep it. My friends, tonight, that is our goal, that is our mission.
It's up to us.
To keep the republic. Absolutely. We are the children of what our founders saw as e pluribus unum, From the many comes one. And this critical race theory is something that is a fallacy from its very inception. And I'm going to give you a tool to show you exactly how it is, so that when you're asked, when you're cornered, even when your children are trying to pigeonhole you, you need to understand some facts. Because there was a time when, and I'm talking to Caucasians now, there was a time when you weren't as sheepish as you are. But you're becoming that way. And you're being cowed down. Yes, a nation was created by old white men, there's no question about it, but what's wrong with the place we are? Those old white guys did a good job as far as I'm concerned. Here. But even while half of my relatives were in chains, we still wanted what free men had. Even when some of your relatives were bond servants and serfs in this country. Any Irishmen in the house? Yo. Even when they were saying, no Irish, no dogs, we still wanted freedom. I'm a quarter Scots-Irish myself. Brian was actually my name. And so, my friends, when we look at how they base this theory, they want you to think that black folks are everywhere. Let me give you a couple of facts. And you can pass them on to your children. Because through critical race theory, they want your children to think that somehow they're less than anyone else in this country. Here's a fact. Black folks make up 12.8% of the American population.
Oh, wow.
That's it.
That's it.
Most Americans, including black folks, don't know that we're only 12.8% of the entire population. That means every black woman, every black man, boy or girl, 12.8% of the population. So, here we go. What does that mean? It means that half of those in that demographic are women, because women are naturally more in number than men. Viva la différence. Then you have 5.2% that are black males in this country. 5.2%. I want you to think about this now. 5.2% of the American population, black males. Which means that half of that population is boys under the age of 18. Now you're talking about maybe 2.5% of the American population being adult black males. And my friend, most of us do very well.
All right.
Very well. But this is my point. If there was an all-out onslaught to get rid of you and me, we boil down to about 1.1% of the population.
Wow.
Would not be hard. And so, they have you, Caucasians, hysterical about being called racist. How is it possible? Many people in Idaho have never seen a black person. But yet their children now in the schools, Laura, are being called upon to feel bad about treating their ancestors poorly. Friends, we all come from families that, and I'm going to tell you about mine. I have dysfunctional folks in my family. Don't y'all look at me like that. You do too. I know you do. I know you got dysfunctional folks in your family. But understand this. No one can ride your back unless it's bent. Americans stand up tall, stand up straight. Because that's who we are. And also understand, and they're trying to teach your children that this is the way to go. But I need you to understand this as you leave here tonight. You need to understand that there are no equal outcomes. There never has been. They don't look for equal outcomes when they play the Super Bowl.
Very true.
Your kid, although that's changing in our schools,
Yeah.
your kids didn't play, at least I didn't play little league football or baseball for any equal outcome. No. We wanted to win. And that is what we as Americans are all about. We are a nation of winners. And we should be wrong if they turn us into a nation of sheep and losers. Joe Biden is a loser. Go Brandon. I've sat on two of the president's boards, and let me tell you something, the only legitimate president of the United States, as far as I'm concerned, is Donald Trump. Right there. Joe Biden. And so, my friends, imagine everything that has been worked for. Everything that those in the greatest generation. My father, World War II veteran. My grandfather, World War I veteran. My great-grandfather, Spanish-American War. I invested in this country. This is my country as well as anyone else's in here. And our children, because of us. Steve Moore, my buddy Steve, said it earlier today. His son turned the gun back on him when he asked him, "What's wrong with you?" He said, "You." Friends, I want you to think about that. Because obviously somewhere along the line we have paved the way to be ambushed by what is going on in our school system. How did we get here? How did we get here? But we're here. And somehow we seem as though we're surprised that this has happened to us. Friends, this is no surprise. Nope. But now that we have our eyes wide open, it's time to ask this question: what are we prepared to do about it?
What are we gonna do about it? Fight.
Now,
Fight.
how do we fight? We fight by taking back our school board. We fight by taking back our state house. We fight by telling them that we send you there to do a job, and if you cannot do it, you need to pack your bag and get out of our state houses and get out of our school board room. That is the message that we must send now. And we must not back down from that message. My fellow men, we must not. I want to applaud Laura. I want to applaud Laura.
Clapping in your ears.
Josiah. These are my colleagues. Please give them a round of applause. As you may have been looking around here today, we have a lot of young people here, interns at Freedom Works, young men, young women, that we bring into our organization to groom them and to put them on the hill, to make them good ambassadors for America. You might have a young person at home that might become at one point a part of our intern program. And we encourage that. We encourage you coming here when the Congress is in town. We want you to be in town so that we can be as deplorable as we want to be. Now, with all that said, I want to finish on this note. And we know that there are subversives in our government. We know that there are people who do not mean our nation any good in our government. And so we must vote them out. How do we get to this place, we ask, here in this country? It happened back in the 70s. And I'll leave you with this little tidbit. Make them laugh. You all remember, how many are old enough to remember All in the Family, George? I mean,
Archie Bunker.
Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker, the meathead, all of that. Make them laugh. George Jefferson, how many remember the Jeffersons? Sherman Hemsley.
Yep.
They even know the song.
Moving on up.
That's right. Come on now.
He recorded it. I want you to notice something. Make them laugh. George Jefferson was at the inception of that series. Poor dry cleaner on the south side, on the west side of New York City. He was angry because he was poor, because he was struggling, and because he never thought he'd make it any further than he did. He never thought, even though he dreamed of the East Side, even though he dreamed about the penthouse in the sky, he never thought it was possible for a black man to have that. So he runs into a nemesis, he thinks, in Archie Bunker, who was a taxi cab driver. And that's all he was going to be, was a taxi cab driver. Hollywood saw that it was really good to put that on television. And let's fix this show so that you have this angry black man who is upwardly mobile, angry at this white guy who looks a lot like some of you in here tonight. Let's make him perpetually angry and mad at Archie. Let him call Archie any names that he wants to call Archie on television. And won't the people laugh at that? Yeah, you still do. Make them laugh. While you poison their minds. A white comedian says something the way black comedians talk about white folks. Oh, you're in a world of hurt in these days. Which means that there is a certain hypocrisy that has been embedded into you. And it makes it easier because you laughed at it before. Now it makes it easier for them to be very serious about programming your children to think that it's okay to be mad at white folks. Make them laugh. And that is what we have been doing, my fellow Americans. We've been laughing at the wrong things.
Yes.
It's time for all of us to wake up and understand what's at stake here. There was a Romanian refugee coming here that asked me in Bend, Oregon, last year when I was speaking there. He asked this question, my fellow Americans, CL, if America goes away, where do people go? My fellow Americans, think about it. Where do people go? Where do we go if America goes away? My friends, make them laugh, but now we're at the point where we can't laugh anymore at the destruction of our republic. That republic is one that your fathers and mine did not pay all the blood, sweat, and tears that they have paid for us to live our lives as colors. America is the only land on the face of the planet, Charlotte, where you can come here from anywhere. And it doesn't matter who your father was. Doesn't matter what flag you waved back then, as long as you come here and want to wave Old Glory the right way. And you come in here the right way. And another thing, you need to stand up and push back against the invasion that is going on in our southern border. There is an invasion that is going on. I'm not a racist. I'm black. I'm not racist. But if you had said that, if you had said we are being invaded, is he any more American than me? Does he have any more to defend than me? Is not his pride in this nation any greater than mine? No. But we have been duped, we have been hoodwinked, swindled, and you are being bamboozled, and your children are losing their birthright.
Yes.
They're losing the birthright. That Franklin said to Mrs. Powell, what type of government have you gotten for us? My fellow Americans, tonight is the time for us to make a choice. Choice is looking 5 years down the road and imagining that things don't change. Imagining the price of our failure. This is why you hear those old white men again pledging to themselves. The 56 of them. And the question has to be asked, what would make 56 men of means, well-heeled, very popular? What would make them say these words? We pledge our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor. Knowing that if they were caught, they would have to hang together or they'd hang separately. The nooses are out again. This time not the British, but the socialists.
Yep.
The Marxists. Those who are leaning into the arms of communism. If you look at our allies, Egypt and other allies like them, they are turning to places like Syria now. The Republic can be lost.
Yes.
And where do people go if the Republic is lost? And the question is, does it return once it is lost? No. No nation facing the type of tax burden, facing the type of deficits that we face, once it reaches a certain point, the camel's back breaks and it never recovers. In times past, we have given many of these speeches, Laura, around this country. Matt Kibbe was once our president, and on behalf of our president, Adam Brandon, and I was going to kill me, I didn't say that in front of this thing, but on behalf of our president, Adam Brandon, you see the teamwork that we do here. It's because the core value creed of this company is that we're not that concerned about who gets credit, as long as the job gets done.
That's right.
And friends, tonight. That's right. Tonight the job must get done. Over the last 13 years, I can't tell you how many speeches, how many people I've spoken to, and it seems that every year, every time, it seemed more dire, more desperate, and it was. But it has led us to this point, where there are elections, if we lose them. Texas, you're in the house.
Yep. We're here. Oh, trust me, we know.
If we lose Texas,
We know.
Oh, that's it.
That's
we can forget about any presidential election ever again.
Never again.
it. We
We're at
working
that
hard.
point.
Trust me, we working hard.
We're at that point.
Trust me.
We're at that point. So,
God
you have
bless
been here.
Texas.
God bless Texas. God bless every state that is represented.
Amen.
But friends, we have not been given this to give it away. My father said after I went and fought for a bicycle he had bought me, and I won't tell the whole story. Sit down. He said, son, whatever I've paid for and bought for you, don't you ever let anyone take it from me.
That's right.
Not without a fight. So, my friends, tonight we throw the gauntlet down right here in Washington, D.C., that we're saying to them that our foreparents, in whatever way they did, they paid for this. And we're not going to let it go without a fight. And so this is the final question, and I've asked this question, many of you have heard it many times, but you still must answer it here tonight because your children depend on the birthright that you leave to them, and I pray that it is an American birthright. And the only way that birthright will ever be preserved is if you are enduring in answering this American and eternal question that holds our nation together. And that question is, are there any patriots left in America? Is there anybody here who is